Today, we're diving into a story that sounds like it was ripped straight from a superhero movie, but I assure you, it's all true. It's the incredible life of Shavarsh Karapetyan, a man whose name you might not know, but whose story you will never forget. This isn't just a tale of athletic achievement. It's a profound testament to the human spirit's capacity for courage and sacrifice. Our story begins in 1953 in the small Armenian town of Yerevan, then part of the Soviet Union. From a young age, Shavarch showed immense promise as an athlete. He initially tried gymnastics, but was advised to switch to swimming. It was a fateful decision. He quickly excelled, but his journey wasn't without obstacles. Due to internal politics, he was pushed out of the national swimming team. Undeterred, Shavarch pivoted to a lesser-known but incredibly demanding sport, finswimming. For those unfamiliar, finswimming is like the Formula One of underwater sports. Athletes use a large monofin and breathe through a snorkel, reaching speeds that regular swimmers can only dream of. Shavarch didn't just adapt to this new sport, he dominated it. By 1972, at just 19 years old, he was already a champion of Europe. Over the next few years, he became a force of nature. He broke an astonishing 11 world records, earned 17 world champion titles, 13 European champion titles, and was a 7-time USSR champion. He was, without a doubt, the undisputed king of his sport, a legend in the making. But as fate would have it, his greatest challenges wouldn't take place in a swimming pool. The first test of his heroism came on a cold winter day in 1974. Shavarch was on a bus heading back to a sports facility in the Armenian mountains. Suddenly, the driver lost control, and the bus careened towards a steep gorge. In a split-second decision, Shavarch smashed the window, separating him from the driver's cabin, grabbed the steering wheel, and wrenched the bus away from the cliff edge, bringing it to a halt. He saved himself and 30 other passengers from certain death. When asked about it later, he simply said it was the closest he came to the abyss. Little did he know, a far greater trial was just 2 years away. The date is September 16, 1976. Shavarch is finishing a grueling 12-mile training run with his brother, Como, also a finswimmer, alongside Yerevan Lake. Suddenly, they hear a deafening crash. A packed trolleybus, carrying 92 people, has lost control, veered off the road, and plunged into the frigid, murky waters of the reservoir. The bus sank almost instantly, settling 33 feet below the surface. Without a moment's hesitation, Shavarch dove in. The water was not only cold, but also heavily polluted with raw sewage. Visibility was near zero. The impact had shattered the bus's rear window, creating a small opening. Shavarch, using the full power of his champion lungs and legs, kicked his way down to the submerged wreck. He smashed the rest of the window with his feet and began the impossible task of pulling people out. He would take a deep breath, dive down, feel around in the pitch-black, silt-filled bus, grab a body, and kick back to the surface. He would pass the unconscious person to his brother Como, who would then swim them to shore. Shavarch repeated this dive over and over and over again. He did this more than 30 times, pulling out person after person from their watery grave. The physical and mental toll was unimaginable. Each dive brought him to the brink of blacking out from lack of oxygen. The freezing, contaminated water was sapping his strength. In the chaos, he blindly grabbed what he thought was another person, only to surface and realize he was holding a leather seat cushion. He later said he was haunted by nightmares of that cushion, convinced that the seconds he wasted on it could have been used to save another life. Despite this, his relentless efforts were nothing short of miraculous. Of the 92 passengers, Shavarch personally pulled 46 to the surface. Tragically, only 20 of them survived. The emergency services arrived later, but by then, Shavarch had done all the heavy lifting. He was the first, and for a long time, the only rescuer. When he was finally pulled from the water, his body was a wreck. He was unconscious, covered in cuts from the broken glass, and suffering from severe hypothermia. The ordeal was over, but his battle was just beginning. He was rushed to the hospital, where he remained unconscious for 45 days. The polluted water had caused severe pneumonia and blood poisoning. The doctors fought to save his life, and for a while, it was touch and go. The consequences for his health were devastating. The infection led to permanent lung scarring, which effectively ended his record-breaking finswimming career. The man who could glide through water faster than anyone on Earth could no longer compete. He was just 23 years old. He did attempt a comeback and even managed to break one final world record on sheer willpower, but his body could no longer handle the strain. It was a bittersweet end to a legendary athletic journey. What's perhaps most shocking is that for years his story was a state secret. In the Soviet Union, tales of heroism were meant for soldiers and cosmonauts, not ordinary citizens. The government didn't want to highlight the failure of the trolleybus or the slow response of their emergency services. So Shavarch's name was kept out of the papers. The people he saved knew who he was, but the world did not. He was an unsung hero. It wasn't until a newspaper article was published years later, in 1982, that the full story came to light. The country, and eventually the world, finally learned of his incredible bravery. He became a national hero in Armenia and received thousands of letters from across the globe. He was awarded the UNESCO Fair Play Award and even has a minor planet named after him. But incredibly, the story doesn't end there. On February 19, 1985, Shavarch happened to be near a burning building. People were trapped inside. Without a second thought, he rushed in again and again, pulling people out and helping the firefighters. He suffered severe burns and spent a long time in the hospital recovering. It seems that for Shavarch Karapetyan, saving lives was simply an instinct, a reflex he couldn't turn off. After his athletic career, he led a quiet life. He opened a shoemaking business and raised a family. He never sought fame or fortune for his actions. When asked why he did it, his answer was simple and profound. I was just the closest one. It's a statement of incredible humility from a man who sacrificed his health, his career, and nearly his life, not once, but multiple times, for complete strangers. The story of Shavarch Karapetyan is a powerful reminder that heroes aren't just characters in comic books. They are ordinary people who, when faced with extraordinary circumstances, make the choice to act. He was a world-class athlete at the absolute peak of his powers, but he willingly gave it all up in a single afternoon to save others. His legacy isn't just his 11 world records, but the 20 lives that continued because of him, and the countless more he inspired with his selflessness. He shows us what it truly means to be human, to be connected, and to be brave. Thank you so much for watching. If you found this story as inspiring as I did, please give this video a thumbs up